Benjamin Franklin was one of 17 children of a candle maker in Philadelphia. Poor family. He went to school only up to grade 2. When Benjamin Franklin was 12 years old, he was apprenticed along with his elder brother in the printing business. When Benjamin Franklin was 19 years old, he started his own printing press in Philadelphia. Benjamin Franklin was always curious, always wanting to learn. He is the one who co-authored the American Declaration of Independence. He wrote the treaty with Paris. He is the one who did so many experiments in electricity, and many of the terms which we use in electricity were coined by Benjamin Franklin. He is the one who invented the pot-bellied stove, the catheter, the bifocals. Amazing personality. Always wanting to learn, becoming massively competent. And Benjamin Franklin has this advice for us. He says, hide not your talents. Hide not your talents. They were for use made. What is a sundial in the shade? And when you're competent, quality speaks in your work. And yet another writer called Willa Foster, she tells us, quality is never an accident. Quality is the result of sincere effort, intelligent direction, and skillful execution. It is the wise choice amongst many alternatives. And therefore, my friends, a winner is massively competent. Does it mean that the winner will not have a setback? Does it mean that the winner he cannot handle a setback? The point we must understand, my friends, is that a winner accepts anything that comes his way. Anything that comes his way, he accepts with what we call equanimity. I have done my best. Fine. If I have not succeeded, I will succeed the next time. I will succeed in something else. That is the attitude of the winner. Taking the rough with the smooth. And that is why, elders in this country, what have they told us? They have told us that whatever happens, happens for our good. Are we all agreed? Whatever happens, happens for our good? Yes or no? But, as a chartered accountant, I must tell you, you all must have heard about the CA exam. Have you heard about the CA exam? It's a tough exam. And so one of my students in my office, he wrote the exam and he came, and in all the subjects he passed. But in CA, not only you have got to pass in all your subjects, you must get an average of 50%. And so this boy didn't get an average of 50%, and he came to me. And I told him, don't bother. Don't bother. Next time you will definitely pass. Remember, whatever happens for our... You can imagine how that boy must have responded. Sir, sitting here in your room, it is very easy to say, whatever happens for our good. But think of me. I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, attend 4 hours of classes, again 4 hours of classes in the evening, and I missed it so narrowly. And you're saying whatever happens for our good? I told him, boy, yes. And I also told him what one Indian spiritual leader tells us. Life does not listen to your logic. It goes on at its own pace, undisturbed. You have to listen to life, because life is not interested in your logic. The boy didn't agree. Sir, how can you say this, sir? Then I told him, I will tell you a story. You remember this story, and you will always remember that whatever happens for our good. And what was the story? A king and a minister. A king and his minister, they went to the forest. Now the king was a very brave man. So the king and the minister, they went to the forest, and there a ferocious looking lion appeared, and soon there was a fight between the lion and the king. And in that fight, the lion was killed by the king. So the king killed the lion. Now as this duel was going on, the lion, are you all able to hear me? Fine. Now when the king was fighting the lion bit off the thumb of the king. The lion bit off the thumb of the king, and then he killed the lion, but he was bleeding. The thumb was bleeding. And standing next to him was the minister. And the minister, seeing the bleeding finger, he started wiping it, and then he said, Maharaj, don't worry, whatever happens, happens for our good. Now the king was furious, naturally. I am bleeding and I am in pain, and this man says, whatever happens, happens for our good. And the king got angry and he told the minister, take back whatever you said. Say that you're sorry, that whatever happens, happens for our good when I'm bleeding like this. The minister said, no, Maharaj, once I have said, I have said. Whatever happens, happens for our good. Now the king got more angry, and there was a well. Now this well had about 5 feet of water. And so the king got more angry. The minister was there, the well was there, the well had about 5 feet of water. He picked up the minister and threw him into the well. And now he asked the minister, I have thrown you into the well. Will you still say, whatever happens, happens for our good? What can the minister say? He said, yes, Maharaj, whatever happens, happens for our good. The king thought, this fellow has gone mad. Let us leave him to his fate. And the king started walking into the forest. And when the king started walking into the forest, inside the forest, he found a group of tribals. A group of tribals, and there's a big statue of goddess Kali. Every year, like our foundation day, the tribals have their annual day, and they catch hold of somebody, some human being. That person's head is cut off, and he is given as an offering to goddess Kali. And the king went there. So they caught hold of the king, and they tied him to a tree. And the king said, what are you doing to me? They said, you know what? Now we are going to have a puja. Your head will be cut off. We will offer you to goddess Kali. Now the king said, you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I am the king of the neighboring kingdom. And you want to offer me? What are you talking? Now the tribal said, oh, you're the king of the neighboring kingdom. Wonderful. That means this year we'll give to goddess Kali royal blood. And so the chief priest came. He came with a dagger. The king was brought before the statue, and the chief priest was about to cut off his head, when suddenly the chief priest said, stop. The chief priest said, stop. This man cannot be given to goddess Kali because he doesn't have a thumb. Something has eaten away his thumb. And whoever we offer to goddess Kali must be complete. This man is suffering from Angadosha. He is incomplete. Take him away. Bring somebody else. And the king was let off. The king was let off, and he said, how right that minister was. That minister said, whatever happens, happens for our good. I didn't have a thumb. That was for my good, because my life is saved. And I threw him into that well. How bad of me. And he went back to that well and he brought the minister out and he said, "Minister, you must forgive me. You must forgive me. You must say you have forgiven me. I'm feeling so bad. This is what happened in the forest. Please say that you have forgiven me." Now the minister said, "Maharaj, you are a king, I am a minister. Who am I to forgive you? And first of all, there is nothing to forgive. Just imagine, had you not thrown me into the well, I would have come with you. I would have come with you into the forest. And my thumb is all right. And I would have died." And therefore, the minister said, "Whatever happens, happens for our good." So my friends, taking whatever comes your way, that is what the winner does. And that is why the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana." You have a right only to action. You do not have a right to the fruits of your action. The Lord is not giving some religious shloka. He is giving you an antidote for depression. That you have a right only to action, not to the fruits of your action. In fact, the Lord says, while the unwise work for the fruit of their actions, the wise dedicate all their actions to me. And the same thought is echoed by a Roman philosopher called Epictetus. Epictetus tells us, man lands himself in misery because he tries to control things which are not in his control. The same Bhagavad Gita. Anil Kumble. Anil Kumble today is the coach of the Indian cricket team. Many years ago, he was made captain of India's team. And he was a very successful captain for those 2 years when he was the captain. And somebody asked him, "Anil, don't you think the board should have made you the captain much earlier because you're such a successful captain? You could be captain only for 2 years." And then Anil Kumble said, "I do not bother about things which are not in my control. I was made the captain for 2 years. Fine, I was the captain for 2 years." So taking whatever comes your way in your stride, giving of your best and working towards whatever you want to achieve, that makes you a winner. And then my friends, this attribute called equipoise. Equipoise is when in a particular situation you don't react but you respond. Why should you respond and not react? When you respond, you think carefully and you take a decision and then you respond. And then you act. Whereas reacting is spontaneous. You could be wrong. This is something which the winner follows. He always responds to a situation rather than reacting to a situation. The best example I can give you is from the life of Albert Einstein. We all know Albert Einstein gave us the theory of relativity. And when he gave us the theory of relativity, after he propounded this theory, Albert Einstein used to go to different places and give talks on the theory of relativity. And there was a very loyal chauffeur. He would drive him in the car to different places and Einstein would give talks on the theory of relativity. Every place, the driver used to sit in the audience and listen to Albert Einstein speak, so much so, the driver became perfect in the theory of relativity. One day they were driving to a new town. Nobody had seen Albert Einstein. And the driver said, "Sir, this place nobody has seen you. What we'll do, I will disguise myself. I will become Albert Einstein. You be the driver and you sit in the audience." Albert Einstein thought, why not? So the driver became Albert Einstein. Einstein became the driver and sat in the audience. And this driver came to the dais, came to the podium, and he made a superb presentation on the theory of relativity. Everything was fine. Then somebody in the audience, they got up and he said, all this is fine, Mr. Einstein, but I have a question for you. And he asked the question. This driver standing at the podium, absolutely calm, unruffled, he said, this question, such a simple question, why me? My driver will answer this question. You come here to the podium. And he, so this is equipoise responding to that situation. Another attribute of the winner is the ability to work in a team. We all know team is TEAM. What does it stand for? Together, everyone achieves more. And so the winner enjoys working in a team. He ensures that not only he does his work, but everyone works well and the team achieves whatever they have set out to achieve. And talking about working effectively as a team, my friends, one of the finest inspirations on working as a team is given to us in the Taittiriya Upanishad. The Taittiriya Upanishad, this is a shloka which we all say at home. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvina vaditamastu, ma vidvishavahai. This shloka is one of the finest shlokas on teamwork. Sahana vavatu, let's all work together. Sahanau bunaktu, having worked together, let's enjoy the fruits of our labor. Sahaviryam karavavahai, working together, enjoying the fruits of our labor, let us grow from strength to strength. Tejasvina vaditamastu, working together, enjoying the fruits of our labor, growing from strength to strength, let us shine resplendent in the glory of our achievement. And then Mavidvishavahai, working together, enjoying the fruits of our labor, growing from strength to strength, shining resplendent in the glory of our achievement. In case any differences arise between us, let us sink those differences. And therefore, my friends, the winner believes that teamwork divides the effort and multiplies the effect. And so the winner is a team player. The winner has this attribute which is called charisma. What is charisma? Charisma, simply told, is the ability to make somebody feel good about himself. Because of the winner, all of us, we feel good about ourselves. Charisma, somebody said, when you're not bothered about yourself, but you're bothered about making others feel good about themselves and not good about you. How do we define charisma? We say Indira Gandhi was a charismatic personality. When you have that ability to make somebody else feel good about himself or herself, you have charisma. A very fine example on charisma. In the United Kingdom, in the latter part of the 19th century, there were two great leaders. One was William Gladstone. William Gladstone was the Prime Minister of England on 4 occasions. He belonged to the Liberal Party, did great work for England. Now he had a political rival, Benjamin Disraeli. Disraeli was the Prime Minister of United Kingdom 2 occasions. But what distinguished Gladstone and Disraeli was this attribute of charisma. Gladstone and Disraeli were intense political rivals. What kind of rivalry? Somebody asked Benjamin Disraeli one day, "Sir, what is the difference between a misfortune and a calamity?" What is the difference between misfortune and calamity? And Disraeli said, if Gladstone falls into the Thames River, it is a misfortune. But if somebody saves him and brings him out of the river, it is a calamity. Such was their rivalry. But Disraeli had charisma. which Gladstone did not have to that extent. The best example, what happened was one evening, a young lady had dinner with William Gladstone. And after the dinner, somebody asked that lady, "What was your experience of having dinner with Gladstone?" And she said, "After having dinner with Gladstone, I am convinced Gladstone is the most intelligent person in England." 1 week later, this lady had dinner with Benjamin Disraeli. After having dinner with Disraeli, somebody again asked this lady, "What was your experience of having dinner with Disraeli?" And this lady said, "After the dinner with Disraeli, I am convinced I am the most intelligent person in England." So he made her feel so good about herself because Disraeli was a charismatic leader. And therefore, my friends, working as a team, having the equanimity, the equipoise and charisma, these are the attributes of the winner. One important thing, the winner, because he is a winner, he realizes that one of the most important attributes in life is what we call significance. What we call significance. The winner has everything. The winner has success. He has achieved everything that he wants. But he remembers what this Hollywood comedian called Jim Carrey has to say. Jim Carrey says, "I want every person in the world to become as rich as he wants. I want every person in the world to become as famous as he wants. I want every person in the world to realize every dream of his. Because after these three things are achieved, this person will understand this is not the answer." Now, if this is not the answer, what is the answer to a meaningful life, a purposeful life? The answer, my friends, you will all realize as you go along in life, the answer to a life of meaning, a life of significance, is to live for a cause which is bigger than yourself. Have I done something for somebody today who cannot repay me? Have I done something for somebody today who cannot do anything for me in return? Then I am leading a life of significance. Which is why elders in this country, with our 5,000 years of heritage, the elders have told us, when you were born, you were crying and the people around you were laughing. Lead your life in such a way that when you die, there is a smile on your face and the people around you are crying. In other words, significance. Living for a cause which is bigger than yourself. Then your life acquires a new dimension. Service permeates every action of yours. One of my favorite stories, in spite of the rain, I want you to listen to the story carefully. A man comes in his car, his 15 lakhs brand new car. He parks the car outside a supermarket and he goes inside the supermarket, does his shopping, and he comes out. When he comes out at this car, he sees a small boy, an 11-year-old boy. You know those boys on the street at the signal, they'll wipe the car glass and so on. One such boy was looking at this man's new 15 lakh car, admiring the car. And the man started talking to the boy. "Little fellow, you like my car? You know, it's a new car. It came only last week." The boy said, "Oh." Now the man said, "You know what? To get this car, I did not spend a single rupee." The boy said, "Huh?" The man said, "Yes, to get this car, I did not spend a single rupee because my elder brother, he gave me this car as a gift. My elder brother gave me this car as a gift." Now the boy said, "Oh." Now the man said, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking how nice it would be if you also had an elder brother like mine. The boy said, no, sir. The boy said, no, sir. Actually, sir, I have been thinking when I grow up, I should be like your elder brother. The man was stunned. What did you say? What did you say? Yes, sir, I have been thinking when I grow up, I should be like your elder brother. The man was so stunned. He was so happy. He said, little fellow, come and sit in my car. I'll take you for a drive. The boy sat in the front seat. The man started driving. The car went straight. Now the boy said, sir, if you don't mind, go straight and take the third left. Third left you want me to take? Oh, your friends must be there. You want to show off you're coming in this car. The boy didn't answer. Car went straight, took the third left, slum area, little houses, third house on the right, and the boy said, sir, please stop the car here. The car stopped. The boy went into that little house, and when he came out, he was carrying his 4-year-old crippled younger brother. And he made that younger brother sit at the entrance of the house. And he started talking to his younger brother. Little fellow, do you see that car? Do you see that uncle? That uncle's elder brother gave him that car as a gift. I want to promise you, Ray, when I grow up, I will get you a car like that one. My family, my house, my car, everybody lives. But when you tell your younger brother, when I grow up, I will get you a car like that one, you're leading a life of significance. You're living for a cause which is bigger than yourself. Which is why India's national hero, Swami Vivekananda, said, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. So the winner leads a life of significance. And what makes winning an attitude? All these ingredients make you a winner and give you the winning attitude. But the most important ingredient which makes winning an attitude is the ability of that winner to be positive in whatever may be the circumstances. Life magazine called him the man of the millennium. In his lifetime of 84 years, he made 1093 inventions. He patented those 1093 inventions. He said success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. What he did not tell us was that success was also because of his positive attitude. Thomas Alva Edison, who invented the electric bulb, and he failed 9,999 times trying to make the electric bulb. 10,000th time he succeeded. And somebody asked him, Mr. Edison, you failed 9,999 times. How did you go on failing? And yet you succeeded the 10,000th time. How did you continue failing? Thomas Alva Edison said, my dear, who told you that I failed? Who told you that I failed? I actually learnt 9,999 times how not to make an electric bulb. That positive attitude. When Thomas Alva Edison was 64 years old, he was standing in New Jersey outside his invention laboratory. That laboratory was the size of 4 football grounds. 4 o'clock in the evening, his son was standing with him. Suddenly that laboratory caught fire. And there were flames everywhere. Thomas Alva Edison told his son, Sonny, go home and bring your mother. I am sure she would not have seen a fire like this. What an attitude. And Thomas Alva Edison said, this fire accident is nothing. I will rebuild my laboratory. I am long on ideas but short on time. I expect to live up to 100. He lived up to the age of 84. Giving us this legacy, always have a positive attitude. And he once very famously said, if the only gift we can give our children is the gift of enthusiasm, the only gift we can give our children is the gift of enthusiasm, then we will be giving them an estate of inestimable value. A person has enthusiasm. What more does he want? He has everything in life, is what Thomas Alva Edison tells us. And therefore, my friends, that positive attitude. Are we in a mood to listen to a joke? And therefore, one of the most important attributes of a winner is that he has a sense of humor. Every day he laughs as many times as possible, because he understands that only man can laugh. Dog cannot laugh. Cat cannot laugh. It is only man who can laugh. And somebody said, laughter is meditation. Huh? How can laughter be meditation? Because what happens when you laugh, you really have a good laugh, your belly starts shaking, such a nice laughter. What happens when that laughter? The I disappears. Mr. Bijoy Sahu disappears, only that laughter is there. Suresh disappears. Sonu disappears. What is there? Only that laughter, that energy. And therefore you forget the I, you forget the ego. And therefore they said laughter is meditation. It is said that a 6-month-old infant smiles 400 times a day. How many times are we able to smile every day? We must smile and laugh. And therefore, I want to tell you a joke. You all have heard of government aided schools? Every year one inspector will come. He will inspect that school. He will go back and give a report. And then the government will send a check to run that school to the principal. Okay. One such school, that inspector came. And he came to the primary school, 2nd standard. There are about 40 students in the class, and that inspector came. The teacher was there in the class. And he asked the teacher, "Ma'am, what have you been teaching the children?" And the teacher said, "Sir, I have been teaching them the beautiful story of Lord Rama. How they got married, and then, they came to Ayodhya. Then Dasharath said, go to the forest. Till there I've told the story." Now, the inspector, he started talking to the 40 children. And he asked those children, answer this question. I have a question for you. Who broke Shiva's Dhanush? Who broke Shiva's Dhanush? The total silence in the class. Pin drop silence. Nobody is answering. Again that inspector asked, who broke Shiva's Dhanush? Finally, the last row, one boy, slowly he put up his hand. Inspector said, "Come on, answer." The boy got up. And the boy said, Sir, I don't know, sir. I don't know, sir. Who broke? I don't know, sir. I did not break, sir. The inspector was surprised. What is this? Everybody knows Rama broke Shiva's Dhanush and married Sita. So I asked the question. This fellow is telling, I did not break. Who broke? He looked at the teacher. What is happening in your class? That teacher, she looked into the eyes of that inspector and she said, "Sir, these 40 children are very mischievous. One of them has definitely broken it. You give me 10 minutes time, I will find out who has broken and I'll bring that child before you." Now this inspector's head is turning. Who broke Shiva's Dhanush? Boy says, I didn't break it. Teacher says, give me 10 minutes time. What's happening in this school? And he went straight to the principal and he told the principal, what is happening in your school? I said, who broke Shiva's Dhanush? That boy says, I didn't break it. Teacher says, in 10 minutes she'll find out. What is this? That principal is cool like a cucumber. He does meditation every day. So he said, why are you making a mountain out of a molehill? Something has broken. Okay, it is broken. Whatever is the cost of that thing which is broken, you reduce it from that grant money, send me the balance money, I will run my school. Why are you making? Be cool. And therefore, my friends, a sense of humor, very essential in life as we go along, because laughter is meditation. Everybody wants to achieve success. So I am going to leave you, because I've taken so much time, with a definition of the term success. And I want every one of you in life to achieve this kind of success. The definition of success given to us by Ralph Waldo Emerson. What does he say about success? To laugh often and love much. To laugh often and love much. To win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children. To earn the appreciation of critics and endure the betrayal of false friends. To appreciate beauty. To find the best in others. To leave this world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to achieve success. And it's my prayer, my friends, that all of us, all of you sitting here, thanks to this wonderful school where you receive what Vivekananda called man-making education,